Welcome to What the Bible Says, a Lug Nuts podcast group production. Good morning, good evening, good night. Should I add that in as well?
Good night. Good grief.
At this point, yeah, good grief.
Good riddance.
Well, let's not say that.
Oh,
We don't
not
want to
yet.
get rid of people.
Good and plenty?
Yes.
Sorry, I'll stop.
No, it's fine. It's fine. What an opening, though, I gotta say.
Yeah,
This is just one good opening.
Well, it's a little silly this morning around here.
Yeah. But welcome back to our podcast. We're 14 chapters in, and we don't have a name for this podcast yet. Depression podcast, the podcast, a podcast. Two random guys just talking about depression.
Well, it's kind of like, the moving thing. Two guys in a truck, who are
Yes.
the movers. Two guys in a microphone.
Well, we have several microphones. Just
Anyway, two guys in a room. Two guys in a book.
sure, yeah.
Whatever.
I don't know. What if someone has a good name? Can you just reach out to us, please?
Two guys in a brain, but I don't know. If there's a brain between both of us, compilation maybe.
I feel like the both of us were kind of like Scarecrow, like the Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
Do we really have a brain?
If I only had a brain.
Anyway,
Well,
this
it's
is
going
getting off the rails.
Sideways quickly. Here.
Yeah. So we're going through Depression, Looking Up from the Stubborn Darkness by, at this point, our good friend, Edward T. Welch. We feel like we kind of know Ed on a personal basis from this book. We're going through another book, and I called the author of that book by his first name, and it's like, we're already on a first name basis with these guys. It's not even Edward to us anymore. He pointed out it's just Ed.
Did. Still did.
So we are on chapter 14 of this book. It is The Heart Unveiled.
I circled the title just to get going here and wrote step 1.
Yeah.
We've talked up to this point in time. Last chapter was, the heart of depression. We're really kind of getting into the nitty gritty. And what does change look like? What does the process of change look like? And we talked about, depression, identifying it, all these different nuances about it. But now we're going to say, okay, well, what does the actual, pathway forward look like? And to me, this is the place where we just say, okay, we got to rip this open.
Yeah.
And this is hard. This is hard.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's easy, we've talked about this before, to either yourself or to approach other people who are struggling with depression, because you have to be careful about the way you approach it, obviously. You don't want to just slap them and say, you need to get out, wake up here and get out of this. But you can't go to the other extreme, too, and just coddle people.
Right.
That doesn't help either.
No.
That doesn't help either.
No.
And so this is where we're not going to coddle anymore here. Not that we have been, but we're going to say the heart really has to be exposed and unveiled. So to me, I wrote this. I circled this one. Yep. This is where it's got to begin.
Yeah. This book is kind of like a Band-Aid. The first maybe 12 chapters, you're just kind of tugging at the Band-Aid a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
13 is when you really you're really pulling at that Band-Aid, and it's starting to hurt.
Right.
And
right.
I got to say, 14, even 13, 14, all the rest of the chapters are just kind of really, they're starting to, saying plowing too close to the corn.
Right.
Well, it's plowing close to the corn. And
sure. Which is good.
Right.
Which
Ed doesn't
good.
care.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, let's go for it. So starting off on page 117, I think one of the main things is way down at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
That first sentence there. One of the problems with the heart is that it's hard to know.
Yep.
And then finishing on 117, which then continues on to the next page. But the heart tends to hide.
Great ones think alike. That's exactly what I had.
Because I didn't have anything else
Underlined.
on there, and that was all I had. And then the continuation on 118 is the heart tends to hide both from ourselves and others. Knowing about it and knowing it are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you and I went through this was a good starting point for someone who's battling depression. It's got a multitude of questions. You know, what do you love? What do you hate? What do you want, crave, hope for? So on and so forth. And then I like the bottom question, do you feel guilty at times?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had all those questions bracketed, starred. You name it, I had it for those questions. So that's what I had. And then, you know, following those questions then, under ordinary circumstances, we rarely ask these questions of ourselves or allow them to take us to the spiritual core of our lives. But depression is not an ordinary circumstance. Depression unveils our hearts.
Yes, it does. You want to reveal who you are. It's not when times are going well. And it doesn't have to be depression. Any type of trial, any type of, you know, heartache, any type of suffering that comes into your life immediately reveals your heart. And that's what I like about these questions, because these questions begin to root out what is the idol of your heart. You know, what are you worshiping? That, because in depression, you know, there's something you're worshiping other than God. Because if you were, you know, if God was on the throne of your heart, you wouldn't be depressed.
Right.
So and I realize that sounds like kind of like that's pretty obvious, but I think sometimes because can be so misguided and so deluded, because the heart is so deceitfully wicked. I mean, it says it's not only is the heart wicked, it's deceitfully wicked.
Yeah.
It tricks us into thinking that it's other people. That's kind of why you had these chapters before about other circumstances, other people, other things, you know, where we're pointing a finger at other people, where these are just really good questions that not everyone applies to me, but a lot of them do, and it becomes very painful. At some point in time, you go, oh, yeah, man, I am kind of like guilty of, you know, especially, you know, number 4, what do you fear? Fear is like, you know, what are you afraid of, you know? And at that point in time, because usually, many times what you're afraid of is something you passionately desire that you can't have. And the reason that you're fearful is because you can't have what you want, and you're afraid for whatever reason of what that might do, how it might respond, what the outcome might be. And so sometimes the very thing that you desire is the same thing that you fear, and that can create a lot of depression.
Yeah, that's, you know, looking back at it now, I wish I heard that when I was going through my depression, because the one thing that I feared the most was what I wanted, which was to be out of depression. But my fear was, and I've told you this before, and I think I've said it on here too, that I didn't know who I would be without the depression there and all the negative thinking. I didn't know who I would be, what I would become without all those negative things. So to hear that, that's kind of like, I wish I would have heard that years ago when I was going through everything, but to hear it now and go, yeah, that's exactly what I was afraid of. that's, man.
Yeah. Well, I guess, that's what you just use that as we move forward and say that to me is a powerful question, because I think because fear is all about control.
Mm-hmm.
Fear many times is fear of the unknown. And when I can't control the unknown, then I either can become fearful, worry, angry, frustrated, or I can say, okay, God, I need to trust you in the midst of all this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, to me, that's a really, those are all really good questions. I'm not saying that, but that one, that number 4 about what do you fear, to me is very heart revealing.
Yeah. So going on to 119 then, speaking of questions, it starts off with a question on 119. Isn't it true that suffering reveals us? And I circled suffering reveals us and answered that question. Yes, it does. Prosperity allows us to hide. Hardships peel off the mask we don't even know we're wearing. During better times, we can be happy, unafraid, confident, and optimistic, but lean years reveal the best and the worst in us. And that's especially true. Hard, easy times, it's, hey, I'm all happy, go lucky, God's blessing me, blessing my socks off. And then the next day it could be, why, God?
Yeah.
Your attitude just absolutely changes to, thank you, God, to, why me, God?
Right. And I like what happened, too. It says hardship peels off masks that we didn't even know we were wearing. Sometimes, that's like, I didn't even realize that I was so, consumed with or passionate about whatever it is until, it's the phrase, you don't realize what you got until it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that says
right
there.
Yeah.
You don't realize what you've got until it's gone. And that then you realize is like, whoo, boy, that just now reveals my character on how I respond in that situation.
Mm-hmm. And then towards the end of that paragraph, then you don't really know who you are until you've gone through suffering. We can measure our spiritual growth by the way we behave under pressure.
And most of us would say, is there a different way we can figure out that?
Right, yeah.
Do we have to figure out spiritual growth by suffering? Can we do it by different, like Dairy Queen standards? I don't know what that looks like. But, so.
And the answer to that is no.
Yeah, no, but that's like,
unfortunate.
That's just, and the sentence before, it is an essential part of the process of change.
Yes.
And it's not just part of the process of change, it's an essential part of the process of change as it goes on in that next paragraph.
Yeah. Oh, and the sentence after that, you have to see what is in your heart before you can set out to change it.
Yeah.
So you can't just say, hey, I want to change my heart. Let's just change it now. Let's get it out of the way without, ripping it open and seeing what's inside. We're just going to change. Everything's going to be good. No.
Sure.
That's not how it works.
Sure.
I like in that next paragraph, it's that last sentence. Find a person who has weathered storms rather than avoided them, and you will find someone who is wise.
Mm-hmm.
And I related this back to one of the artists that I really got onto during my depression and still like. It's NF, a rapper who is Christian, and has gone through many a storm. Has a song called "Just Like You," and one of the lines goes, "There are millions of us just like you." So even though you might think I am one in 7 billion people that has depression, there are 7 billion people who have probably gone through depression before, or at least some form of it. So you're not alone. All you got to do is just say, I need help, and someone's going to help you. Don't be afraid
to
ask.
Sure.
I guess that's where it really needs to start is, you need to have the courage and the gumption to actually want help.
Right.
Because if you don't want help, then you're a lost cause until you really want help. So
Well, and that's, the passage that comes to my mind right here is in Ecclesiastes where it says, the one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. And before that, it says, pity the man who falls down, but has no one to help him back up. And I think that's what this is saying.
yeah,
You find a person who's weathered the storms rather than avoid them, and you will find someone who is wise. And a lot of times when you're hurting, your pride gets in the way, and you say, "Oh, I can figure this out on my own. I don't need anybody's help." Because let's face it, in our society, our culture, asking for help is a sign of weakness.
Yep.
And it shouldn't be.
No.
As a matter of fact, asking for help
should be a sign of strength.
exactly. When I walk into a store, and like the other day, I forget what my wife sent me to the store for. It wasn't send me for carrots or bananas. I know where those are at Walmart. But there was something else. I was like, I have no idea where this is. And there was a person with a Walmart thing. And I said, hey, can you tell me where? Oh, yeah, it's right over there. Right there, And I don't think she looked at me and said, what kind of weak-willed person are you that you have to ask
Right.
directions?
Right.
No, it's over there. And so if you're out there and listening to us right now, which we hope you are, it's not a sign of weakness to go ask for help.
Yeah.
Now, if you ask for help, you've got to be willing to put forth
The effort. Yep.
to, take your part in what's going on here, but don't walk this journey alone.
Yes. Moving on, personal growth and change are not always easy, but they are essential to true humanness.
Mm-hmm.
It is simply how we are built. They are the Creator's intent. Then the difference with human beings is that we grow physically and spiritually. And I mean, I can just go on with all the stuff I have on that page. We don't have the time to do that here. But yeah, there's so much stuff. That was page 119. Going on to 120 then. Man, where do I even start? Man. I guess what did you have on 120 that really stood out to you?
Well, I guess in the second full paragraph, the last two sentences, it says, in other words, the problem behind depression is not always physical.
Yeah.
Many depression experts have come to similar conclusion. And again, that's where you next paragraph, then the last three sentences. Therefore, when you change your thinking, you change your depression. Brain scans even show that we can bring about significant physical changes in our brains simply by thinking differently. And I think that's where at the bottom core of any type of change, whether it's depression, whatever the change might be, it could just be I want to be a person who prays more. It has to fundamentally begin with a change in thinking. That's why we're saying the heart unveiled, because that's where it all begins. Now, having said that, my bout of depression was because my thyroid was jacked up. So I'm not saying that if you're listening to us that you might not have a physical malady going on.
Right.
Okay. But that can't be labeled as the root cause of your depression, because if that's the case, and there's no way to solve that physical, then you're stuck being depressed forever.
Right.
But if you're saying, no, that's not the inevitable ending of this, is that, I can change the way I think about this situation, and now bring my thinking into compliance with what the Bible has to say and how the Lord would have me to think. Doesn't mean that your circumstance becomes different, but this is that joyfully grateful that I can have. So I guess that's what I get from this page here.
Yeah.
Is that, be careful to label everything as physical, because basically you've got to change the way you think.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that bottom paragraph. It's not unusual to think that depression can reveal us and that we bring something to depression. What is unique about what we are saying is that we are going deeper. We are going beyond thinking errors to consider errors in the way we know God.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, I really love therefore when you change your thinking, you change your depression.
Right.
I really love that. It all starts with the heart, but it also starts with your thinking too. You got to be thinking the right things.
Right. And that's why the questions that we alluded to back on page 118 gets your thinking going.
Yes.
That's the whole idea of, it's not just probing you just to make you feel bad.
Right.
It's not just a masochistic list of things. Just to, no, now you really feel bad now, don't you?
Right.
No, it's there to reveal, what are you worshiping?
Yes.
What's the idol of your heart? What are you thinking about now? What do you want that is more important to you than pleasing Jesus Christ?
Yeah.
What's that thought pattern look like?
Yeah. So then on 121, we enter detours in the wilderness. That first sentence there, that the principle that suffering tests us and reveals our hearts is one that appears throughout Scripture. Just kind of going on. It was not an easy trek, but God's purpose was to reveal his patience, kindness, and care. He intended to rest them, to see or have them see what was in their hearts. And that's kind of talking about Moses and the Israelites, leaving Egypt and all that stuff, and how they weren't really following God's orders, or at least the Israelites. And, God was like, all right, well, if you're not going to follow what I've set out for you, then here, wander around the wilderness for, 40 years?
Yeah.
So just moping around.
Yeah, and I guess, that next paragraph says, the people failed the test repeatedly. And trial after trial, they failed to trust. And again, that's the essence of what we're talking about here, is relinquishing control, whatever, it's easy to remain, in your despair and your despondency, even though you don't like it, because you've kind of figured out how to manage it.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to saying, no, I need to now trust God, change the way I think. Well, that's scary, because now I don't know what the outcome looks like.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what it's talking about here, is that, it's an issue of trusting God. And the people, they failed repeatedly.
Yeah.
Repeatedly, okay? But then, again, how often do I, do the same thing?
Right.
So before I point a finger at those people and go,
yeah,
what a bunch of bozos you guys are.
You need to take that finger and point it at yourself.
Yeah, because I wrote down in here, the heat reveals my heart.
Yes.
During the journey, people's hearts are revealed. That's what's going on in whatever situation you currently find yourself in. God is squeezing your heart. What is he? What is it revealing to you?
Yeah. You brought up exactly what I was going to go to next.
I'll be
so
quiet.
No, it's fine. I like the fact that you brought it up. And yeah, it's true. So then going on to 122. In doing so, he becomes our model. He is referring to, I believe it's Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So in doing so, he becomes our model, our hope, our power when we are in the desert, When we fail in desert trials, we can point to Jesus' success in his life. His victories are ours through faith, so his story becomes our own when we trust him.
Mm-hmm.
So then we go into Joy in the Desert.
Yeah.
I love the subtitle question.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of starred both verses there, James 1, 2 through 4, and then 1 Peter 1 through 6. In the middle of those, there is a little mini paragraph, and I underlined that first sentence. Joy and suffering are wedded together. And then he just kind of goes on. It looks like an impossible marriage, but James is not the only one to speak about hardships with the hint of a smile on his face. So then going on to 123, after the cross, everything was transformed, including perspectives on suffering. And it kind of just explains, how pilgrim travelers still encounter suffering as much as ever, but suffering is now viewed as the pains of childbirth rather than pain that is purposeless and random, mere accidents.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of keeps going on there. I don't want to go through everything I have underlined because we'd be here for
I had about
3
everything
years.
underlined on 123.
Me too. I'm just trying to pick out the most important things.
Well, I think just that topic sentence, before Jesus came, wise people willingly endured difficulties because they knew God was with them.
Yeah.
And again, it's not like, suffering is redemptive, and it's just, again, pointing to the fact that Christ will be enough.
Yeah.
And at the bottom of 123, it says, in heaviness we often learn lessons that we never could attain elsewhere.
Yeah.
And that's where, in our humanness we say, well, is there another way we can do this?
Right.
Other than through heaviness?
And the answer is no.
Yeah, because we're really, and it's not that God is this cruel taskmaster, but it's like, until you really come to the point where you totally don't have any other options but him.
Yeah.
It's kind of where I'm at in my world right now. I really would like to do this some other way.
Right.
But I'm coming to the point where I don't have any other options. And that's where God is going to, and is growing me and helping me to strengthen and shape my faith in probably a way that he never could have.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing for you, as far as in your situation, my situation, we're talking life and death, and that has a tendency to bring
right
real heaviness to the whole thing.
Yeah,
And it doesn't mean to say that you have to be in a life and death situation for life to be heavy. So I'm not trying to say what we have experienced is so much worse.
Right.
But when you get to that point, that's where I like that first sentence. They willingly endured difficulties because they knew God was with them.
Yeah.
And so, anyway.
Yeah. So then 124, I had that first full paragraph all bracketed, but I guess the meat of that is in the next paragraph there. Joy is not the opposite of depression. It is deeper than depression. Therefore, you can experience both. Depression is the relentless rain. Joy is the rock. Whether depression is present or not, you can stand on joy. And if you didn't get anything out of this whole chapter listening to this, just take that and use it for the rest of the day and the rest of your life. Joy is not the opposite of depression, and you can stand on joy. So then, kind of going on before it gets to response there, pray that God would receive glory by giving you joy in the midst of your trials. And then, under the response, You're like, okay, but how can I pray? Well,
Yeah.
Ed's got that answer for you.
Yep.
You can pray this prayer, search me, that's Psalm 139, 23 and 24. Now, I started that. It's search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me and lead me in the way everlasting. And then the little closing paragraph there. Life before God is an ongoing sequence of living, evaluating, and changing, then reevaluating and changing, then reevaluating and changing. Depression is too. It is occasion for reevaluating and changing.
Yep. Well said.
Yeah. I didn't say it. Ed wrote it down. I was just merely conveying what Ed was saying. So that is the end of chapter 14, and then come back next week, maybe, Lord willing, for chapter 15 for fear.
Fear and anger are the next two, and those are two emotions that will bubble forth quickly.
Yes.
In depression.
Yes. So we start really diving into the meat and trying to get the cure for depression. So I don't know how to really close this one. I don't know. I don't feel like doing the old what the Bible says closing, because I don't know. I don't think that works here.
To me today is just it like I said, go back to it. This is step one.
Yeah.
This is step one. This is where it all begins. And, depending upon where you're at in your walk right now, where you're at as far as possibly depression right now, search me.
Yeah.
Search me, oh God. See if there's any wicked way there. It's time to maybe reevaluate, hit the reset button. Maybe you've hit it before and it's time to do it again. Only this time you've got maybe a few more tools with you that maybe you didn't have in the past. And as we have said before, if you don't have any hope in this situation right now, you hang on our hope for a while, because both of us are here to say, hey, been there, done that. It doesn't mean that we aren't going through other things as far as our own personal walks right now are concerned. So we're trying to live it out just like everybody else is too.
Right.
And so we'll hang in there, and as always, we say Jesus loves you, and
so do we.
So do we. We'll talk to you later.
We hope you enjoyed the podcast today. If you did, please check out our website for more podcast episodes and shows at thelugnasspodcastgroup.com. Like us on Facebook and Instagram, and we will see you next week.